Hello and welcome to the latest podcast from the Casual Gamers Project, the podcast where a bunch of lifelong friends chat and have a bit of crack reminiscing about days gone by from our video gaming past. My name is Diggs and I'm joined by my fellow casual gamers Peter.
Howdy.
And Steve-O.
Hello.
We've a guest on our podcast today, so a warm welcome to Veddy. Veddy is another lifelong friend of ours and he's going to help us out today to help remember all these wonderful games we played.
I'll do my best.
I'm sure you will.
You will. You want me to invite it back in?
Is this the audition, lads?
This is the audition.
Yeah. Jeez, I didn't see the black couch.
We can't afford it yet.
In the previous episode, we covered the latest games we were playing, and since it was the Christmas time, we talked about some of our gaming memories of Christmas. If you haven't already checked it out, please go listen to it now. So, today's episode is probably the one we've been most looking forward to because we're going to focus on one of, in all our opinions, one of the greatest consoles of all time, the PlayStation 1.
Oh, yeah.
So, this console was released probably one of the best times of our lives. We're gone from being children into, early teenagers, coming of age kind of time. And it was just absolutely mind-blowing, this console. And so I think basically the first thing we'll do is we'll talk about maybe our first experiences with the console. And I'm going to select Peter as our first one.
Are we sure we're going to have enough time for all this?
Yeah, that's why we thought, I just said to myself, right,
get you out of the way first.
Get him out of the way first.
Yeah.
I'll be back in a second. I'm going to stick a pizza in the oven, lads.
It'll be second.
Well, you see, the thing is, Veddy, you're the main reason why all this happened in the first place.
He's the instigator.
Yeah, because you were the one that had the PlayStation. Yeah, originally.
I'd like to take this time to apologise to Dick and Stephen for that.
Yeah. Oh, my ears were bleeding for a number of months after that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because I never shut up. You know what I was like, Jesus.
I know.
But
bear in mind now, you've only got a few minutes.
Yeah, I'll try my best to keep it short and sweet. But to get it started, I remember, Veddy, you had the PlayStation around Christmas '96, and I remember you inviting me down a couple of days after Christmas on the holidays. And I remember heading down. It was on the Friday night. It was on the Friday night. Yeah. Now I'd never played the PlayStation up to this point. I didn't even know what, and I kind of seen like ads for TV and didn't pass much remarks because we were still used to playing the likes of, because we had the Master System and Diggs, you had the Super Nintendo. You take that over to our house at the weekends. We used to be flat out playing that, playing all the games like Mortal Kombat, Mario Kart. Used to be a blast. But we weren't really prepared for what we were about to see with the PlayStation. And like, I'll never forget it. For me, hands down, that first experience when I got to play it, Veddy, in your house, was probably one of, if not the best experience I'd ever had with games in general, because it was just absolutely fucking mind-blowing. Because you're going from that transition, you know yourself, from playing like 16-bit consoles. Because I remember you used to have a Sega Mega Drive when we were growing up as well.
I did,
and and it was crazy, like, to see the difference in transitions, because I'll never forget like the first game, because I know you're mad into your sci-fi. You love all your sci-fi shooters and all that type of stuff, because I do remember some of the games that you had. The first game actually you got me to play was Shockwave Assault, because I know you're mad into all of that type of stuff.
God, I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I liked it. I actually thought it was really cool, but I wasn't as big into sci-fi at the time as you were, so I didn't really understand kind of what was going on. But I remember that you had the likes of Air Combat, and you had another game called Time Commando, which
I said to Diggs, he's going to bring up Time Commando.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah, but I knew that you liked that game at the time.
Yeah.
So you did actually, because you liked all that futuristic kind of stuff.
I did.
Yeah, and then it was Resident Evil. That was just a game changer. But I remember playing Shockwave Assault, because you were like, dude, you have to play this game. I remember playing it, and I actually thought it was really cool. The one thing it was the first game I'd ever seen that had proper FMV sequences or movie sequences in the game, and I'd never seen that before in a video game. That's what was mind blowing to me. But not only that, when you're playing in the levels themselves, what was mad was there would be FMV sequences of the characters popping up while you're in your ship from time to time, telling you that you've done something or you missed something, or to be given out to you. And I'm just sitting there and I'm like, holy crap, this is insane. I didn't, it just was mental. And I remember you were playing it first, show me what to do, and you're like, here, have a go. So and I hadn't a clue, like, and I just tried the give it a go. Now I liked it for what it was, but I was just like, I don't really know what to do here. I think it was one of those kind of games that I've got more out of watching someone else playing it and taking it all in rather than, you know, trying to play it for myself. But then I remember after that, then you showed me a couple of other games, but then we went on to the demos, and the demos just blew me away, because I remember rightly well, the first demo disc we played was the demo 1 demo disc, because you were mad to show me.
I bet, Peter, you can name every single game that's on that demo disc.
Well, most of them. I remember I remember a couple of video demos. There was Ridge Racer, there was Tekken. I remember you showed me a couple of them, and there was another one called Rapid Reload. It was like a 2D side-scrolling shooter, and there was a couple of other ones. And I remember you showed me the tech demos with the T-Rex, and there was another one with like a manta or a fish, which was really cool.
There was, you had to swim the fish around and stuff, because
there was also another cool thing on it. It was called like the VCD. It was then like a tech demo where it had like kind of like a disco kind of effect on the TV that you could plug in your music CDs as well and listen to music, and the geometry on the screen of all the graphics would change to the music, which was pretty cool. But the games then, I remember I wanted to play Destruction Derby because again I love racing games, and I seen that and I was like, that's cool. And I remember you telling me to try that there, and
I
we
knew
played
you were going
that.
to bring that up.
Yeah,
you literally near burnt that disc out with Destruction Derby.
Yeah, I did. I never stopped playing it, and even the first Wipeout was brilliant as well. And what was it? Played a couple of other games, but then moved on to played Wipeout, Destruction Derby, played Battle Arena Toshinden as well, and that was pretty cool because me and you could play against each other because that was a 2-player demo as well.
It was a 2-player.
Yeah, I do remember playing.
Was that beat 'em up game? Was it?
Yeah,
Toshinden, right?
Yeah. Whereas, there was another game called Loaded. I do remember playing that there as well. It was like a top-down kind of like shooter. You're going around like a big maze kind of thing. That was brutal because it was very, very violent, very, very graphic. So it was. But I remember then seeing a video demo of Total NBA 96, and it just looked so surreal. And I remember you telling me, oh, that's only a video demo, but it just looked so unbelievable, like in terms of graphics. But then we went and played a couple of other demos, and I remember you had another demo that had 4 games on it. There was Monster Trucks, Wipeout 2097, rolling demo, video demo, Destruction Derby 2, and Formula 1. And that was, I got addicted to that demo because I played Wipeout, especially Monster Trucks. Yeah.
There was like a hidden way you could get a Monster Trucks too, and we kept trying to nail it as well.
Yeah, because remember we kept trying to get out of the map. We kept trying to see if we could glitch out of the map as well.
We did, yeah. We spent ages on that, man.
Yeah, because it was a time demo, so we always tried to see how we could get within the time, and we had a blast playing that. But I remember you showed me the Formula 1 demo, and I was like completely blown away by it. It was like, because it was so lifelike and real, because you had all of the engine sounds, you had Murray Walker doing the commentating, and I do remember vaguely saying to you, it's like, dude, this is just like watching on the TV, because I used to watch myself and the boys, and even Diggs would be over at the house sometimes on a Sunday afternoon, and we'd be sitting watching the Formula 1 over in the house on a Sunday, and
it
felt
was
like
that.
Yeah, and to play the demo of the game, and you're playing on the Nürburgring, and it had the engine sounds, everything, and it just felt and sounded just like the real thing.
It was very authentic.
Yeah, it was the most authentic thing I'd ever seen in a game. I'd never seen a game to be so authentic to the real thing.
I think as well, just to jump on there, like, do you remember Virtua Racing come out?
Yeah.
When you think of PS1, you think of the transition from pixels to polygons. And I remember Virtua Racing. I remember seeing that, and like, I get that it's 3D, but Formula 1 looked incredible for like full-on 3D game.
For the time as well.
Because it had all of the textures of the graphics of the cars, like it had all of the sponsors and everything. Like it
looked amazing.
Yeah.
Plus, you had the real commentary, like of the guy who was commentating at the time.
Yeah, Murray Walker.
And when you think about it, like our only immersion in the video games before then was side-scrolling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
so when you jump into that, you're like, it's like a mind totally like, whoa, this is like real life. You know what I mean? Because it was immersive.
Look, that's a Formula 1. It wasn't even playing Formula 1. Obviously, it was great and driving the cars and real Formula 1 sounds and the commentary. But even looking at the weather, when that came into effect, even if you drove in the wet, it was phenomenal looking at it.
Yeah.
It was just so real looking, you know what I mean? It really was. It was class. It was like, damn, this
beyond anything.
I've never seen this before.
Yeah,
like if you look at Formula 1, say on a Mega Drive, and then you look at Formula 1 on the PlayStation, like that's true next gen, like
definitely.
The visuals, it's just so crisp and clear. It really looked amazing.
I'll never forget, Veddy, that the demos I played the most were all the racing games. I'll be honest. Monster Trucks,
surprised.
Wipeout games, Destruction Derby, Formula One. I remember just being addicted to all of them, and because it was at some point you were actually cracking up, you're like, dude, you can have a game.
We all know that feeling, don't we?
Yeah.
We all know that feeling.
Well, the thing is, anyone that's growing up with me has known what I would like, and Steve being
Peter,
my brother.
you invented that phrase. One more game.
Yeah, he did. He literally did. Like, I swear to God.
I wouldn't mind
just one more.
I do often say
the controller was literally glued to his hand.
It's not even that. There was a time.
It definitely was.
It literally was. Like, I mean, there's a time he came over, right, and Peter was like, on his run. I don't even know what he was playing. I can't even remember, but I remember like
he'll tell you. Don't worry.
he was standing up, right, because my TV was on top of a unit. It was a wee small, about 15-inch, whatever it was, and he's standing playing it, and I fall asleep, right. I wake up and it's like 6 a.m. It's now daylight, and he's still in the same position. And to me, that just reminds me of Terminator 2: Judgment Day. You know when Arnie's standing at the window, and like it goes from night to day, and he hasn't moved. It was Peter. He became Arnie in that moment. He just never moved, and he was still playing.
I think I did actually knock the PlayStation off at that point. I think it was about 3 a.m.
Go to the bathroom.
And I literally, I think I only knocked it off for an hour.
Get down.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
that's exactly what he
One more game, damn it, yeah.
I ended up lying jumping up onto the bed. I think you were sleeping in the bottom bunk. You were on the top bunk and I slept in the bottom bunk. I literally lay in it for an hour, and I was having withdrawal symptoms already. I literally couldn't, and I wouldn't mind it. Like, the thing was fucking piping hot. It's like, oh, I'll let it cool down and all this, and I'm like, oh, and I need another fix. I need to play it again.
Sleep, Freddie, don't he was over the fire.
That's what actually happened.
It's blowing into it to cool it down. That's what he was doing.
I love how he was like, oh, it was piping. I love how he was saying like, oh, it was piping hot, let it cool down. And then he goes, wait a minute, this is Mark's, not mine. Don't worry about it. Just go back on.
And you see, that was the thing. When I eventually did go back on it, then a few minutes later, you actually did wake up, and that's when you seen me kind of stuck at it. Then, and
you were stuck in the one spot. You didn't move.
He didn't move. He was collecting dust.
But you even you still all remember. So when I used to be that addicted to it, that I would sit that close to the TV, I wouldn't even blink. I was so
I actually remember on this. You actually would not blink.
No,
he was like a live
you're going to blink.
Yeah.
Just damn. This isn't real. I'm going. This fella hasn't blinked in about 2 minutes.
Yeah,
this isn't real.
And that was a normal thing for me. I was so engrossed, like everything around me was gone. Like there was no world around me other than the world I was in with the video game that I was playing. That was me.
He put his tear ducts on pause.
Literally, and it became worse. Then it wasn't. That was the thing. That I had played. We had
you put a new emphasis on board watching.
I had played Resident Evil. Then I'd say before all of that, we ended up. You got me to play Resident Evil and Time Commando. And the funny thing is, I loved Resident Evil. I thought it was awesome. Because I remember you showed me the cover and you're like, dude, have a look at that. And I was engrossed in the back case. I read it fucking 3 or 4 times, and then eventually you turned it on and you showed me what to do, and I was like, this looks mad. And they're showing the video.
Team Resident Evil, sorry to cut you off. How many times did we read the book because there was the info on the characters?
Yeah. That's what we were engrossed in, trying to figure out stuff. Like, that was the mad thing. Like, because you were telling me what you knew, and I was trying to read it and listen, and I was like, then we were trying to figure stuff out. But I'll never forget when I was watching it, and then you were like, right, your turn, you have a go. And I hadn't a clue. I never moved a 3D character around in a 3D environment before, and I didn't know how to move. I didn't know how to walk. I didn't know how to run. You were telling me and showing me how to use all these buttons. How I wanted to aim, exit, shoot. I hadn't a clue what I was doing. I could barely even walk. I could barely even open the door. And then when a zombie came at me, I was like, I was nearly panicking, so I was like, ah.
You never knew how to walk or crawl beforehand because you always had the controller stuck to you and you couldn't do anything else.
Even the next day when I tried to play it again, we tried to play it then the next morning, and I still, for some reason, out of all the games I played, Resident Evil I struggled with, that and Time Commando I struggled with the most. I just couldn't grasp the controls on it, but I was like, that was me, but at the same time I was addicted. But in saying that, I remember after Resident Evil, you were itching to show me Time Commando.
Yeah.
And it was different to Resident Evil, but at the same time there was a lot of similarities, because again it had fixed cameras, you can move around in that 3D space, very similar to Resident Evil, but it mixed gunplay, but it also had proper like physical combat where you could punch and kick, and stuff like that. Now it was tough to figure out how to control. It was probably equally as tough compared to Resident Evil in terms of what to do. But it was pretty cool, the setting where you go back in time and then you start off in the first level where you were like in like the Stone Age kind of thing, where you were fighting against like cavemen and women, and then you had all the animals like you had saber-toothed tigers and stuff like that, and big gorillas.
It was pretty cool premise that you went through time and different periods of time, and it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Like, and I got stuck in it for ages, and then of course Smeets comes around the house, and 10 minutes later he's past the point I'm at, and I'm like, how?
Funny, actually, now that you actually mentioned that, there was a point, that you were stuck. You were trying to get past a certain puzzle. You're like, dude, I can't do this. You want to try it? And literally,
it was the caveman.
Yeah,
I get stuck to it. Kept throwing rocks at me, and it was annoying me.
Yeah.
And Peter comes in 10 minutes later. He's like, yeah, so we're on to the next bit.
I remember. No, you actually walked out of the room and you came back in, and then you're like, dude, I've already finished, and you're like, you didn't even say nothing. You were just like, oh, what could you say? Like,
it's funny listening to you talking about this game, because I've forgotten about Time Commando, and it's now that you're kind of invoking those memories about it.
Yeah, I can remember it, but not much about it. Do you know what I mean? But it was one of the first games I played on.
The funny thing is, because I got to really get into it because of Eddie, and I didn't play it as much down at his house as I did play other games. And there was a certain time when we tried to play it, and there were certain levels I couldn't get past. We got so far, but just couldn't get past certain levels. It triggered me then, say, about 5 or 6 years later. I think it was about 19 or 20, and I ended up buying it then. I bought it like off eBay, and because I went through a massive thing. I was actually working in one of the nightclubs in town. I was about 22 at the time, and I just went through a phase of buying older games, and I ended up buying Time Commando dirt cheap on eBay at the time, and I just wanted to get back into it, so I wanted to kind of just re-experience the game, and I did manage to finish it, and I have to say I really enjoyed it, even though it is clunky and it might not be for everybody, but I really liked it. Once I got into it and figured out what to do, it was really good. So it was, and because I knew, like, say, Eddie, he really liked it, even though it was tough, but you were always more mad into that futuristic kind of style of games as well. Like, I do remember that back then. So yeah, it definitely fitted into what you were into as well. But I'll never forget then the next day, then after that, coming back to the house, and this is where I had a discussion with the lads. Like, I went into the house and was telling them about all this, and they were laughing at me sitting on the couch like, Peter, you're full of crap or whatever. And I got to a point where I was actually biting their ear off about it that much that eventually got to a point I think they got annoyed with me. So I kind of just stepped away then for a little while, and it wasn't then until a couple of weeks later, because I do remember then going into your house then the following weekend again, and we were playing through some other bits. Yeah, because you had actually gotten further in some of the games, and I remember you
people
telling
should
me
definitely write his memoirs.
Yeah,
I
funny enough, I was at something the other day and I was told that I should actually write a book. So
the book would be called One More Page.
I'll add it to my list. What was I saying? Eventually, we ended up playing through because we wanted to get further in Resident Evil, and I was adamant I wanted to get better at the game and stuff, and to get a bit of practice in. And we did manage to get a wee bit further in some of the games, even with Time Commando, because I do remember even you showing me Air Combat as well, because I did try it on the first week, but I couldn't get into that at all. I found that very, very difficult. Now you were really into that, but I couldn't really get into it at all. I just found it to be a really, really tough. I had no clue what I was doing with that game.
In Air Combat, I actually didn't mind Air Combat.
Air Combat was fun.
Do you know Air Combat? Air Combat was the game where, everybody, when you're playing those FPS type games, things like that there, you have your setting ID, you have your axis inverted or it's normal. That's the game that started me off with the inverted axis. Down for up and up for down. I think in my head, the way if you're flying a real fighter jet, it's that kind of control, down is up and up is down type thing. Yeah. So I think that's how I program my brain from the get-go. That's how to play those games. So when I play FPS now, I
do remember because there was a few times me and you would be playing a few of those games and you'd actually have the inverted controls and I would play it after you and then I couldn't use the inverted controls. I'm like, dude, what are we doing? I'd be all over the place. And you'd be
I remember you being stubborn and saying, no, I'll figure it out. But your brain just wasn't programmed.
It couldn't compute. It just couldn't compute what was going on. Yeah.
Just going to Mark, you got the PlayStation, Christmas '96, was it?
Yeah, it was around about it was Christmas '96.
Did you know you were getting getting it, or
No,
was it a total
no,
surprise?
just came out of the blue, man. Came out of the blue. And to be honest with you, came out of the blue, and like my expectations turning this on was like it's a Mega Drive, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't, and I remember turning on Tomb Raider, and I was like, wait a minute, whoa, this is like weird because like it's not going from left to right. This is like 3D space, and then my brain was like totally like. So I got Tomb Raider, Time Commando, and Resident Evil. Then my first three games. And for Tomb Raider, man, I think I spent ages just running around the mansion, just getting used to being in the 3D space, just trying to figure out the game, you know. But the big thing for me that blew me away was games now had like a story and immersion. Yeah. Whereas yes, some of your side scrollers did where you had the pop-up text, but this was different because you felt like you were watching a movie or you were in the game yourself. Yeah. And it was a big, like, it just, I mean, I was hooked at that point from then on. I was like, you know.
But I'm trying to think back in the PS1, they would have had some voice acting, right?
They did, yeah. Tomb Raider had voice
Resident
acting.
Evil, we all know that had the voice acting, the really bad cheesy voice acting. But at the same time, like, that's next gen, isn't it? Like, when a new console comes out, you expect something great, different, you know. So yeah, no, I get what you're saying there with like the FMV sequences. It was proper, like it was almost like playing a movie, wasn't it? Interactive.
It was, yeah. Especially with Tomb Raider, because like I remember like the first level of Tomb Raider, you're with this dude or something, and you jump off this big waterfall and you go down, and then there's these wolves come, and the guy gets, I think he gets killed by the wolves, or there's players kill him, like another group of bad guys. But it's all like voice, and Lara Croft's talking, and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is like, I have to get to the next point. Like, you're hooked because you're like, I need to see what's coming next in the story, you know. So yeah, man, that for me, like, I remember when I got it, I spent ages just like, and like, even when you look at the console aesthetic itself, it was totally different. It was a CD, so like you already felt like back then you felt like you were on the cutting edge of technology. Goodbye cartridges, and we're now on to compact disc, you know. And when you opened it up and you pushed the button and the PlayStation logo, you know, came up, it was totally different, man. It was a very different vibe to what you had before, you know. Even from the sound, like some of the games back in the Mega Drive were like, maybe Peter will correct me if I'm using the wrong technical term here, but they were like MIDI soundtracks and stuff.
That would have been,
yeah. And now you're into stuff that isn't MIDI, and you're getting
it's proper audio quality, like
proper audio. And
you know, going back to what you said about Tomb Raider, like I remember the soundtrack to Tomb Raider, and it was proper like audio soundtrack. You know, no
great vibe to it.
Stuff there.
It was just exactly. And like even like the little things in Tomb Raider, like when you would find like treasure, there was a little chime went off, a wee sound, but it was just like so different. You didn't get that in other games, you know. It was just
the sounds of the weapons, like authentic.
Oh yeah. I used to just spend ages shooting wolves, man, because it was great crack.
Just when you're saying about that chime there, I do remember that when you got close to a secret or an item of interest, it would play a certain thing, and that was really cool as well. It was.
But like the PlayStation 1 did have, it'll be a console that is like forever ingrained in my mind because it was literally the start of my gaming addiction.
I think, like,
it
is. You know, SNES and Mega Drive was sort of like an addiction because we had the consoles, but you're right. Like, I mean, it was totally different when you got the PlayStation. Like, interactive. It was almost like movie quality FMVs, and
it changed everything.
Like you think Resident Evil 1, like the intro to Resident Evil 1 is an actual like live action.
It's a film,
you know. And I always remember when Resident Evil 2 came out, and do you remember when we went back to CGI with it?
Yeah.
I remember being disappointed by that.
Dude, so was I.
I was like, they look crap. Give live action.
I was even more disappointed because George A. Romero shot like a commercial for Resident Evil 2. I was like, why can't we just use that? That was brilliant. And I was like, you know, they went and they used the CGI, and don't get me wrong, I still love the Resident Evil 2 intro, right?
But hindsight now,
yes,
pretty cool.
Still pretty cool. But when you looked at like I even just remember that first cutscene when she picks up, isn't it, Joseph's gun, and she's lifting it, and then it's like, I remember sitting there going, oh my god, this guy's lost his arm, what's going on? And like freaking out, you know, and then thinking to myself, we need to get to that mansion because there's dogs out in these woods, what's going on? And the biggest thing was, because I hadn't known I was getting a PlayStation, hadn't looked up on any of the games, I went into Resident Evil completely blind. I had no clue what it was about at all.
But I think a lot of people was the same actually. Because do you remember at the time, like, a lot of people had not completed that game months later.
Yeah.
Because it was before the internet, before you could just look up and see, oh, how do I get past this bit? You know?
I'm just thinking there, just real quick. I remember when I did go to play Resident Evil, when you first went to turn it on, Freddy. I remember you actually telling me, and you said to me, "Peter, are you sure you want to play this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And it's like, Peter, because I know what you're like. You don't like.
That was a stupid question.
Yeah,
because you sure you want to play this?
No, but you see, the thing is, you know what I was like back then with horror movies. Like, you were already watching kind of like zombie movies and stuff, and I couldn't stomach it. I'd run out of the room. I just couldn't deal with it, and that's why that's why you
Doom.
yeah, that's why you turned around and you said to me, "You sure you want to see this?" Because I know what you're like with movies, and like, I'll give it a go. But you know, it's weird. Even today, I still won't watch horror movies, but I love horror games, and I played.
People used to hide behind the chair when Peter Venkman in the Ghostbusters cartoon got possessed.
I was terrible.
Do you remember that cartoon? That was
Yeah.
I was
He used to hide
terrible.
behind the chair, and there's no word of a lie.
Yeah, and even today, that's what I'm saying. I still will not watch horror movies at all. I just won't entertain them. But I'll play horror games all day.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Well, on that basis, like I'm not. I've kind of grown out of horror movies. I don't think they're very scary anymore.
No, they're not.
It's not like the old days.
They're not what
you
they
know,
used to be.
but-
Yeah, the old
They're not
movies
what they-
definitely scared me a lot more.
Yeah, but
What
the
I
games.
See, a
games
lot of
are
new
awesome.
movies now, they go for the cheap jump scare. They
Yeah.
don't
It's all
bother
jump
to-
scares, yeah. It's
They don't
all
bother
jump
to
scares.
put in, like, you look at the old Halloweens and stuff. You've, like, even for example,
Tension was always
yeah,
built
no,
properly.
like you look at the Predator, not technically a horror. The Predator's only on screen for, I think it's like 12 minutes in the entire movie.
Well, there you go.
You know what I mean? You're building
That says it all.
the apprehension up,
Yeah.
and like, you know, but they don't do that now.
Yeah, it's a pity. Anyway,
We sound so old now.
That's because we are.
Experience goes a long way.
that's it, yeah. But I think for myself and Steve, our experience of the PS1 was kind of like the same time, wasn't it?
I remember
it was that weekend that Peter went away off to
It was the second
Eddie's
weekend,
house
yeah.
to experience the PS1, or the second one, was it?
Yeah.
And then we said, well, that's it. We're going to hire it. We're going to rent out our PlayStation now and join the gang. And I don't know if you remember, Steve. We went over to the local video store. Yeah, him. But do you remember what we got? I think we got, was it Road Rash 3? Was it?
No,
Road
it was
Rash,
only one Road Rash. First Road Rash.
Was it
Oh,
Ridge
Road
Racer?
Rash, sorry.
Yeah.
Road Rash
Road Rash
and Ridge Racer.
Yeah.
And we were all just, do you remember, like, I just remember that time. Now, to be honest, like, I had played the PlayStation before, but it was very briefly. But just, like, having the console there, like,
And see
this
what all the
time,
hype is about.
instead of a cartridge, you're top-loading CD-based loader, and I was like, this is, like, really cool, like, and next minute, you know, obviously that intro starts and you're like, ooh, you know, because before that all you had was Sega,
Yeah.
and then, you know,
The MIDI,
but,
MIDI track.
yeah, that's it. But like, I just remember, like, a whole lot of us, like minus Peter, just sitting in the room, like, and it was almost like quiet, because I think we were all kind of like blown away by how it looked and how
we were
it
all
played.
intrigued to see exactly
it
what
was
is
just
this
silence.
about.
You know what? It was a good thing I wasn't there, or I would have
Where's-
taken over.
It's the hype.
Funny
the
enough,
hype
you say
real.
that. It was a very calm night that night.
Yeah.
Everybody took their turn. The controller was passed and took their turn.
That never happened when I was
All
around.
hell didn't break loose.
No.
I have to take nap breaks when Peter was over. I was like, I'm going for sleep, Peter. I'll see you in the morning.
The funny thing was, even for myself, like, even going back to, say, like, Master System, Mega Drive and all that, I wouldn't have played many racing games in any way, shape or form on them. And then, so when the PlayStation came out and we hired it, and we had 2 racing games, I like going, I saying, what's this going to be all about? But then once we fired up the PlayStation, it was like, damn,
Different
this isn't
ballgame.
what we're used to.
Yeah.
It was just, it opened
It
up
was,
a whole
it was definitely
new
like,
fucking,
yeah,
a
you
whole
knew
new
that
world, basically.
this was
This is-
big. Like,
this is the real
is
thing.
Big deal, yeah.
Am I wrong in thinking that there was a Prodigy soundtrack on Wipeout? A Prodigy
Wipeout
song?
2097.
2097.
Firestarter.
2097 had one of the best soundtracks
Yeah.
of the game.
Oh,
Yeah.
hands down.
I was going to
Yeah.
make a fool of myself, so I was going to say 2027.
That's the cancelled version.
That's the one that didn't make
Because I knew the
the cut.
Wipeout one, I going, it was 20 something, I said 20 something 7. I said,
No, I always remember it
27?
was a full century ahead, wasn't it? Of
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
yeah, it was. It came out in 1997, and then it was called 2097.
Yeah.
I remember that. But yeah, no, that's I'm just thinking like Ridge Racer. I think Ridge Racer, I don't know if you will agree, that was the first time I ever felt like I was really playing an arcade game at home.
Yeah, definitely.
The sound, the visuals, everything was amazing.
I actually really enjoyed Ridge Racer. The only thing I didn't like is see when you bump off
I know,
say a barrier.
Just collision detection.
You just when you go flying, you're going, what's going on here? It's just something that you weren't used to.
You know, but as a young kid,
the lesser consoles.
I think it was the first game that had drifting in it.
Yeah, it did, yeah. And I don't know if you remember this, but do you remember, like, was it in between races? There was the Galactica game.
Oh, dude,
at the start.
Oh, that was Ridge Racer, wasn't it?
Yeah. If you shot all of them, you got access to the... Yeah, there was a hidden black cow, wasn't there?
Hidden black cow. You had to finish that.
I wouldn't know because I never did it.
That was a Namco thing, because they used to do that with Tekken as well. And Tekken 1, if you did like a certain cheat button code, it brought up a round of Galaga, and if you beat it, you got to fight, like, I think it was Devil, or it was Kazuya or Hayashi, or something like that.
I know who, I can't think of the name either, but I remember there was a secret character, wasn't there?
Yeah,
it was a devil version of one of the characters in the game.
It was a devil version.
Yeah, because you actually got Tekken. I think you got a second-hand copy of it, Veddy, a couple of weeks later. Because I remember you taking it down to the house one weekend. Yeah, you did, and we were sitting playing for a good couple of hours. You were addicted to Tekken.
No, Kazumi.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I remember you being absolutely totally addicted to that game. Literally every other game got put aside for Tekken when you got it.
I know. Yeah. I was sort of the odd one out. You were all like, I think I liked Tekken because I was alright with it. Whenever I played you guys in Mortal Kombat, it was just fatality. I just got my ass kicked.
Funny enough, like,
I could only do a fatality in one character, and that was it.
Yeah. But I think Tekken, I struggled to adjust to Tekken because it was the 3D, you know, and I loved the visuals of Mortal Kombat, you know, that photorealistic kind of visuals. So I couldn't bring myself to upgrade into the world of 3D fighters, but that was just the stubborn version of me. But yeah, no, Ridge Racer was an incredible arcade game, wasn't it, on PlayStation?
Yeah, it was a great one. It's one of my favourite races ever.
I loved it, even the sounds and visuals, because it was one of the first games that I played, and it was just, whoa, is this... Yeah, this is really happening. This is actually real. What we were used to, as you said, very side-scrolling and all that in the 16-bit cartridge, 8-bit cartridge. That's all we were used to. Yeah. But now to actually have a proper racing game
and music, it was, and decent music, and
it was fantastic.
That's the thing about the PlayStation. The audio chip in the PlayStation, that's Sony's pride and joy. Is the hardware for audio was incredible. Yeah, really no other console really could compete with them.
That was why, like, later on that year, when we got the PlayStation for Christmas in '97, we had the choice of a couple of games. Steve-O got Fade to Black, and I made sure that I got Ridge Racer because I knew myself I was going to play it. Yeah. So I
No, I'm just going to interrupt you there, Smith. You made sure we had the PlayStation because your nose wasn't out from under the fucking tree.
Yeah.
For about 2 weeks before Christmas.
It's like, you know, when you were talking, Mark, earlier about, Smeet's not moving.
Yeah.
He didn't move from beside the tree at Christmas.
He knew it was there under the tree, but he couldn't touch it at Christmas Day. And he literally was on hands and knees, looking, staring at the fucking thing.
Oh, I sat in my chair beside it and I didn't move.
Do you know what his logic turned into? I can't wait this long for it, so if I sleep, time will go quicker.
Yeah, that's what I did. I went to bed for a couple of hours. Because things called over later on that evening. Where's Peter? He's up in bed. But I walked in my favour because then later on that day, because as soon as everybody went to bed, I was up at 1:30 down playing it before everybody else. Because usually I'd always go up and wake all the boys. This year I did not wake anybody.
It was times when we could sit in the sitting room. Times that we were sitting in the sitting room, and if he walked past, he'd be checking to make sure it was still there, as if someone was going to take it.
I was a fucking demon when it came to the PlayStation. Yeah.
So go ahead, Diggs.
No, you go ahead. I was going to
say, am I right? Was Time Crisis PS1?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Steve had Time Crisis, didn't you?
Yeah.
I loved that.
That was a great game.
Yeah, I had it actually, and I had the gun and all with it.
Yeah, that was like
G-Con.
the second arcade game I
Loved
ever,
it.
like second arcade feeling game I had for the PS1.
Loved it.
It was arcade perfect port, really, wasn't
It
it?
was, yeah. it was-
Oh, it was.
I
That's
got
another
loaned-
Namco game, right?
Yeah, I got
That's
loaned it
another
off a
Namco
lad in
one, yeah.
school, and that was the first time we played it. Like, and
Can I
then
say something?
Yeah.
Namco, I know said Tekken, and obviously new Tekkens are coming out in, let's say, PS4 or 5, whatever.
Yeah.
But is it Namco that's making them, or they gone out of business, or they're still on the go?
Oh,
or-
they're
they've
owned by
combined
Bandai.
with someone. Is it Bandai?
Bandai,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, right. I was wondering there for a second. That's why I just asked the question. I
Yeah,
wasn't too sure.
Namco Bandai, like they were responsible for Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Right,
you know.
right.
They have a great collection of games.
No, I just tried to ask because most of the games that I played said obviously it wouldn't be Bandai Namco or whatever it is. So I just wasn't too sure if it was
Oh yeah,
still
it's
on the go or
Bandai.
not.
Now. I was calling it Namco Bandai.
I do remember like what that time when you did at the PlayStation come back, and I came back from Veddy's house, and yeah, it was about an hour before you had to leave the computer back, and you were like, Peter, you have to try this out, try Ridge Racer today, and said try Road Rash. Road Rash was unbelievable.
Yeah,
So
Road
it was-
Rash, and it had a great soundtrack
And
too,
Road
right?
Rash again has one of the best soundtracks on any PS1 game, hands down.
Yeah,
Well,
it
Road
was
Rash
like
is very,
the
very
'90s
good.
grunge soundtrack,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you'd
really
Soundgarden,
enjoyed-
you'd loads
I
of
really
different
enjoyed that game.
cool bands on.
Therapy and all that was
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was
incredible
awesome.
game actually.
Mm.
You know, well, what's you know, the look of the PlayStation? Did you like it?
Yeah.
You know, in terms of the style of it, the color. You know, before we move on to the likes of the controller and that, but like looking at the PlayStation, I really liked it. Now going from the Mega Drive, because I loved Mega Drive because it was black.
Yeah.
Black,
So
yes.
I thought it was a bit strange that we had now a grey console, but
console.
you know, the SNES was grey,
I think
But I actually liked the colour.
the Mega
and I
Drive.
think that's where it stems from,
I
right?
actually-
Because
I really did like the colour of it.
The Mega
Yeah,
Drive is probably the
It
best looking
stand out
console.
more, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, that's just my opinion.
but
to
if
me,
you-
it just
if
makes
you-
it stand out more.
But you look at the PlayStation 5 now, I hate the colour of it. I know it's black and sort of like an off-white,
I know.
but when all your devices are black and then you've got this
I know.
white, it just sticks out, and it's very, but the size of it sticks out anyway by itself.
It's the
Jesus.
Tower of Sauron.
My God.
I actually,
I really hope they, you know, off topic, I really hope they revise that, the PS5.
the PS5, don't get me wrong, it can be the shape and everything, but I actually don't mind it because the way I have me sitting set up, it doesn't look out of place. That's
Yeah.
why I don't mind it. You know what I mean?
That's alright, because you've probably like a 65-inch TV and it looks tiny beside it.
Yeah.
It actually does.
Looks like a fire stick.
Looks
But like, I'd see the way you were talking about revising the design. Did you see they found a flaw in the design just recently? with
Yeah,
the
but
PS5?
standing it up.
Yeah, I need to actually
Yeah.
put mine because it's sitting standing vertical right
Crap,
now.
I've
I've never had mine.
I can't
mine's
put it
always
like flat. I
horizontal.
know where to put it.
Yeah, see, mine's vertical at the minute, but I couldn't be bothered. I'm just waiting for
I think that's why I
I'm
don't
hoping this
mind
year
the way
they'll
mine
have
is.
a new model.
Because mine's.
But I
horizontal
can
the whole
put I can
time.
put mine flat, but I think it looks really big and bulky when it's flat.
It does.
It
It
looks nicer when it's upright.
Like, I have the
It
disc
does.
version, but I don't play any discs on
It
mine.
actually
All
does look
digital
nice
games.
upright, but just the way I have mine set up, I've always had mine flat, and nope, it doesn't look out of place. It looks dead on. Even
Yeah.
the wife, she'd say to me, "Oh, she was getting worried I'm getting a PS5 and hooking up to a 65-inch TV. Where are you going to put that?" I said, "I'm going to put it just under the TV. It's going to look out of place. We'll see." As soon as I had it set up, oh, that actually suits the sitting room. Aha! See,
My wife
No
was
wonder
just
I
had to
she's
say
like,
that.
get that out of here.
she hasn't seen me since.
She regret
But going back to the
No, she
PS1
doesn't.
design,
that. Yeah.
you all, so it's general consensus, you all liked it, right?
Yeah, I
I really did. Even
agree.
the colour, everything. Yeah,
I agree with
actually
you,
did.
Dig. I think for me, before the PlayStation 1, the Mega Drive was probably the best looking console out there at that time. It really
Yeah,
was.
it was really cool looking,
It was
I
really
thought.
sleek and just really just,
Mhm,
you know.
absolutely.
But the PS1 was definitely different, but I really liked it. I think it was definitely reflective of its time when it came
Yeah.
out. I think that's what was really appealing to it. And the fact is, when you popped the lid and the lid popped up and you put a CD in it, like that was the first time I'd ever really kind of seen that as well.
Yeah.
And it
And,
just
and don't forget as well, the PS1 was like the first time you could listen to a music CD on your
Yeah.
console.
Yes.
It wasn't
Yeah,
just for
exactly.
games.
yeah,
You know, that was
Yeah.
a cool feature too, just to
Oh,
have
that
that.
was brilliant.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just even
But,
back then, not everybody would have even had a CD player. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And then say, right, go over to somebody's house and if they had a PlayStation, pop a CD in and listen to thick and tunes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm. I know the first time I ever saw the PlayStation 1, before I ever played it or anything like that, I was in Belfast just before Christmas. I think it was 95 actually. And I was, where the bus dropped us off, across the road was an electronics store, as a kid, you're just going in to see what games they have and stuff. And I didn't even realise that it was a console. I just saw it, right? And I seen people, there was a demo on the store, people could go over and play the console. And I looked at it and I thought, right, everything's 3D. I think it was Air Combat actually was the demo that they were playing. And I looked at it and I was like, what is that? Like, is that a PC? Is it a computer? What the hell is that? Because I'd heard nothing about it really, and the fact that it loaded CDs, I thought, oh, this must be just like a PC or something.
Yeah.
I actually had no idea it was a console. But then, obviously, like that later that Christmas, or was it, maybe it was January 97, Steve, or was it, when we played it? Because if Mark, if you got it Christmas 96, then it was after Christmas, wasn't it, Peter? You played it?
I think
Yeah,
so,
it was.
I think
It
you're
was
right.
probably
96.
January 97, yeah. So yeah, like I had no idea. I was like, yeah, whatever. I'm not even interested.
Yeah, the PlayStation had already been out a year and a half before I ever got to play it.
You think about it as well, like even when the PlayStation came out, we still had, I was going to say N64, we still had SNESs, we still had Mega Drives, and I think we kind of knew ourselves that
I had an Amstrad.
You weren't.
So did I.
You weren't going to be able to afford to buy one.
Yeah.
So I think we kind of knew ourselves, well, we're not going to get one because of the price range of it. I said, so it just says, we rest on our laurel and says, we have what we have and we'll enjoy what we have, and we did. The PlayStation we knew would come over time.
Yeah.
Because
So
I remember
like
whatever was
some
next
things,
gen.
some
Obviously,
people couldn't wait.
you had like the Saturn and things. I think the Saturn was released first, right?
Yeah.
Sega got it out there first.
Yeah.
But I know, like the Saturn, I'm sure you've all seen the Saturn. They stuck with the black design. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I remember I rented out the Saturn before. But
yeah, I actually have a Saturn here. I bought it about 10, 12 years ago, and I bought a couple of
What
games.
console do you now have?
Yeah,
right.
yeah. No, because it was the one console that had eluded us pretty much, because we had played pretty much any console you can nearly think
I'm
of.
trying to think.
And I personally never got to play a Saturn back.
I
in the
did.
day.
I hired it out.
And I often, now I will admit, it often does leave me with this question: if I had played the Saturn before I played the PlayStation, things could have been very different. But then in saying that, the PlayStation had a ridiculous catalogue of games, and the games that we had played, it was just you could not deny.
And it was much easier to program for.
It was, yeah.
The PS1 was much easier to develop for, should I say?
But in saying that, I have to say now, years later, in retrospective, looking back, the PlayStation is still the better console. It's easier to get into, pick up and play, vice versa. But the Saturn does have some really awesome games that if you ever had a chance to play one, play it. See Sega Rally on the...
Yes.
Sega Rally is freaking epic.
And Virtua Fighter.
Yeah, Virtua Fighter 2.
They were the two massive games.
Virtua Fighter 2 is awesome.
Yeah. But I remember when everything was switching to 3D polygons, like Sega's big thing was Virtua Fighter. And this is going to sell thousands of Saturns.
Oh my god!
You know
Sega Rally's awesome.
You know the story behind the PS1 and how it actually came about.
Was it something to do with Nintendo?
Yeah, like Sony had an agreement. Well, Nintendo approached Sony to develop a CD-based drive for the Mega Drive, an add-on, and they were
the SNES.
no
Was
problem.
what do you call it? Was it that the Mega CD? Is that what you call it? No.
No,
it
it was
was
for
add-on
it was for the SNES.
SNES.
Yeah.
It was with Nintendo.
Yeah.
So it was an add-on for the SNES, and so there was an agreement in place, but I think there was, if I'm saying this correctly, there was an agreement that Sony was going to be allowed to develop their own machine and have games.
Well, what was
the Nintendo games?
Yeah, I think what was actually the
work
problem
on it alongside.
Yeah, I think what actually happened was sorry to cut across you there, Dick.
Right.
There was an issue with the sales, because apparently there was a clause in it that Sony were going to receive more of the benefits from the sales than Nintendo would.
There was something in there that Nintendo weren't happy.
Yeah.
But instead of just going and saying, right, we're not happy with that, like do you know that it's after being on there last week, CES Consumer Expo something or another, it was in 1991, I think it was. Sony went up before and announced the SNES PlayStation, it was going to be called Super Nintendo PlayStation, and they announced it like that they had an agreement didn't. And then the next day, Nintendo went on and said, we have an agreement with Philips and we're going to develop a CD-based add-on for the Super Nintendo. They didn't even tell Sony. They just made a fool out of them.
Yeah.
They buried them.
And Sony just were fuming. They were absolutely fuming. But they were going to give up on the whole thing. And then that guy, I can't think of it.
Ken Futuragi or something like that.
Yeah. He's called the father of PlayStation or whatever.
Yeah.
He persuaded the execs to, no, let's go and develop our own thing.
Yeah. Well, they had the hardware and technology already there and ready.
Yeah, like they were a hardware company. And he ended up like, even some of the execs were like, no. He eventually got the green light to go ahead, and the execs still didn't really, some of them were just like no, and he was actually pushed into the Sony music, I don't know whether it was the building or he was put in alongside, and that actually favoured him because the music, the audio chip and all that was gone in.
That's why the audio in the PlayStation was so good.
And you fast forward like to now and you look back and ever, like the PS1 was just a phenomenon.
It was a revolution.
It was just the amount of games and the fact that it was easier to develop for. They were just spitting out games.
Exactly, as you said there, you hit the nail on the head. It was easier for game companies to produce, create games for the disc than it was, say, for the cartridge. And you said they were spitting them out. It was just so much of selection. It was just, you couldn't keep up with it compared to the cartridge versions.
The one thing I liked about the PlayStation disc was that they put their own signature trademark on it where they used the black CDs.
The black,
That was really cool.
Because when you open the box and you look and you're like, oh, well, hang on, this is black. What's going on with this? This is weird.
Yeah.
It's like the thing about the Saturn when it came out, like or actually the PlayStation 1. So it was the first time you were using CD based games. So for me anyway, it was the first time I ever really said or noticed that I had to wait for a game to load. Which I didn't. I have to admit I wasn't a fan of. I was like, I'm so impatient that, like, give me a cartridge any day of the week. I just play the game.
Well, what we were used to. So instant loading times. And
and then you had the issues with storage. There was no storage on the console, so you couldn't save your games. And that was a big deal because the Saturn had built-in storage. There was no need for memory cards.
Yeah.
Do you remember memory cards? Jesus Christ. And then they corrupt and everything's gone. You're like, oh my God.
Does anyone remember Metal Gear Solid? When you would go fight Mantis and you would start reading off all the games you had in your memory card?
Oh yeah.
That was weird.
I was thinking of it. Who's the other guy that you had to switch the controller into port 2 because he was reading your mind?
That was Mantis.
Oh, it was Mantis as well,
yeah, same dude,
That was, even if you want to move on to that game, that is just, even to this day, that's still one of the greatest games of all time. The voice acting, the story. That's probably the first time a game actually was movie quality, I thought.
In terms of story, totally,
Story was fantastic. Graphics were fantastic. Gameplay, it really.
David Hayter.
It set the standard. It set the standard for storytelling.
It did. Big time.
But the gameplay elements was amazing. That stealth thing, the way like you almost had like a top-down view. And you had the CCTV cameras would move, but you'd have the mini map on the side with the little yellow beam showing you where it could see.
I have a memory of Peter losing his goddamn mind with that game. He was out in the snow and he was trying to creep around past some of the the guards.
I couldn't do it.
And it was like every now and again, every 10 minutes, all I hear is snake, and I'd see Peter going.
Even like if you think back, right, that game. Remember
it was so realistic as well. PS. It was fantastic. It really was.
The story was like when you think of Metal Gear Solid 1, like that story is good enough to be a film, And you think back to then when that console came out, that's outrageous.
I know, right?
And I was just thinking, like remember it was such a big deal because you could hide in a cardboard box. Do you remember? It was like
that was deadly.
I just think Metal Gear is amazing, and I don't know if you just remember, but when you complete the game, the outro song,
the music, I know,
the best is still to come, that was recorded in Limerick here in Ireland.
Was it?
Well, I mean, it's all Irish.
I do remember that actually. I do remember that.
The best
I never noticed.
And I remember a couple of months or a couple of years later actually when I got my first PC, and I had the way you could, it was like a dual CD drive, but one of them you could record from the other.
Yes.
And I remember putting a CD together for my brother because he didn't have a computer at that. And I remember putting that song at the end of it because I says, "Oh, I bet you he'll like it." And he rang me that weekend. He was like, "What was that song at the end?" And I says, "Oh, it's an Irish song. It's actually from a video game I played the weekend." He says, "Very good." I was like, "Yeah, it's like top quality."
Yeah.
You know.
But again, you wouldn't have got that in the Mega Drive. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have. That was one of the things about the PlayStation. Like, yeah, I remember even playing. I even remember the end battle of Metal Gear Solid when.
Have at you, Snake.
Yeah, and he's standing on top of the broken mech and all. I'm just
yeah.
thinking like, this is a movie. This is a movie I'm in.
You fought the mech, didn't you? When he was
You
in
did.
it.
You fought the mech, and then is it Grey Fox comes along, and then there's that big battle, and then the mech gets destroyed, and then he gets out of the mech, and he's talking to you and all. And I'm sitting there going, holy God! Like, it was just going up a tier every time, and you were wondering what was going to happen next. It was great. And like, the good thing about that game as well, like, the game was very well structured in terms of set pieces. Like, from the very start where you come out of the submarine, you're like, oh, I'm underwater, and then you're creeping through the hallways, and like, you went through different sort of peaks and valleys throughout the story in different locations. Because some games that have a habit, and Resident Evil 1 guilty of this too, of backtracking and reusing the same stuff, and just but Metal Gear Solid didn't really do that. You sort of kept pushing forward, which was good.
Well, it was a linear kind of experience, right?
It was,
kept going, moving forward. Like, I'm just thinking of some of the boss battles. Do you remember what was it, Sniper Wolf?
Yes.
And you had to take the Azapam. Do you remember to calm yourself down?
Get you, yeah.
And there was a few others as well. Like, there was Revolver Ocelot, right?
Yeah. And there was the guy with the
ninja,
big
right?
minigun. What was him?
Oh yeah. Can't remember him.
That dude?
Yeah.
He's a big dude.
Well, do you remember, wasn't there a guy, like a ninja, he used to fight in an office and he was invisible?
Yeah, that was Grey Fox.
Oh, that's Grey Fox, right.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember.
Because the first time you meet him, you walk in the hallway and there's all these dead bodies and they've all been sliced up, and he's invisible and he decloaks, and you're looking in a minute, and I remember thinking, going, oh, am I going to fight this guy now? Oh no. It's like, it was good.
So before we continue on, we've decided to break this episode up into 2 different parts, as again it is quite long. So be sure to join us in part 2, where we do continue on this journey of our first experiences with the original PlayStation.